I need a job, but the job is asking me for experience. How am I going to get the experience if you're not going to hire me for the job?
This is what we call the catch-22.
Especially in the US, this is a big problem. You find it's actually mostly a US problem, but let's talk about how pervasive this is. Because in the US, most companies, when they are hiring, they have this laundry list of training and experience.
They're looking for unicorns.
They're looking for unicorns. They're looking for 3, 4, 5 years of experience, and they are offering entry level
pay.
But they are asking for advanced skills.
Yeah.
So it's a very tricky situation.
Or they're looking for somebody that has entry level skills, but that has the exact combination of skills that works for their environment, which doesn't translate to what somebody could even have in a different environment. So it's like a very unique person that they're looking for that is not out there.
To me, in my 10 years in this business, this is the biggest problem. This is the biggest issue in this industry. And this is the one we are trying the most to actually alleviate. Because if that pipeline from trainees to job was more obvious, we wouldn't have that gap between job opening and people looking for job. Because the problem is, the funny thing is, there are thousands of jobs that are open, ready to hire, but they are not willing to actually invest in training whoever lacks the amount of experience they have.
Yeah. So, and as you said, this is mostly a problem in the U.S.
Yeah, because
if you go to Asia,
and Europe,
the culture and tradition around this is to hire people that come out of college and teach them what they need to be able to function in that environment.
College or training centers, they're usually the government is always more involved by incentivizing the companies to take you on and actually train you for whatever you lack. But here in the US, they want you to have it. So now let's talk about a few things that can help with this. Because every day people are still getting jobs here.
Definitely.
So that's one thing we need to clarify.
And we all got in somehow.
You got in, everybody got in, but there's not a very clear path. And what you need to do first is make sure your skills, the skills you're here to develop, are actually very deep. Because one of the way to actually break that cycle is when you show up to the interview, you wow the interviewer so much that they are willing to actually overlook the experience requirement.
Yeah.
But you need to know your stuff. You cannot BS your way through, because that's what I see a lot. They come in, they do the work, they literally half-ass the process, and then they expect a job. No, it's not going to happen like that, because you need to impress that interviewer to even start beginning to have a chance in the catch-22 era of you have in the US. You see what I mean? You have to make sure your technical skill is on point. You have to make sure your soft skills around interviewing is on point. Yeah. We talked about it in another video. You have to show up with your personality. You have to show up
as yourself, yeah.
And all that counts.
Another thing is you can do things that can kind of open doors. Like, I know a certification won't get you a job. However, a certification may drive attention to your resume. A certification may convince the person interviewing you that they don't have to ask you all these questions because you demonstrated that in a 3-hour Red Hat exam where you had to chip away at commands.
Exactly. So certification is helpful. Definitely not going to get you a job, but it's going to get you interviews. It's going to get you at least to sit with someone to actually even consider you.
Yeah. Having a consistent story in your resume is also a consistent and compelling story in your resume. Not only like your previous experience from other fields, but also what do you know? Like, did you just start studying random things on the internet, or do you look like you know this matter in a consistent way?
Exactly. And this is where we talk about depth versus width. If your resume, despite not having a job yet, is very consistent about all the knowledge surrounding Linux, for example, that you've acquired, it makes a more compelling story. For you to get a chance. Yep. You see what I mean?
Also, once you're already at the point where you're getting interviews, can you tell that story?
Yeah.
I am a firm believer that the most important question in an interview is tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And even at work, I see that my students leave that question for last. Like, they'll prepare for the technical things, but they'll show up to the mock interviews we do and not have their story like an elevator pitch. And that's something that you can practice with your friends, with your family. I remember Jubee used to hear my elevator pitch, even as he was brushing his teeth.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, do you see the theme of community coming back again?
Yeah.
If you have a community that's supporting you, that actually, for example, not only supporting you, but probably got in a job ahead of you, can recommend you to a job, can explain you what it is this company is looking for in your resume. You can go and acquire that skill and add to your resume to have a better chance with that company.
Yeah.
So community and networking, again, comes to help you.
Yeah. Another thing is, I saw it with myself and I see it in my students all the time. Like, the imposter syndrome gets into you in a way where you're kind of doubting every step of the process. Like, you literally wonder, how are they going to approach me in that interview? What does the interview look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is the work assignment? All these things. And if you have somebody that can tell you, like, hey, when I interviewed with X company, this is how the interview process went. I had 3 rounds. In the first one, they asked me this. In the second one, they asked me that. You could at least prepare for that scenario. Yeah. Then you see somebody else and you have another scenario. And that's gonna help speed up how you prep for interviews.
And that's what we have in the community we're building, where we invite people who broke through that catch-22 to come speak to our students.
Yep.
And tell them and give them ideas about how to actually break that catch-22. Because trust me, this is the question I get the most.
Yeah.
I'm interested in getting into Linux for jobs, for example, but when I go on Indeed, they always everybody's asking for 4 years of experience. I know.
That's true.
It's true.
It's true.
But people are getting into the industry every day, so there are ways to actually alleviate that.
Another thing is these job descriptions, they're wish lists.
Yeah.
So just because it says they require 4 years of experience or they require these 10 tools, that doesn't mean you have to have all 10 and all 4 years of experience.
And also there are tools that you may not have, but you have similar knowledge. You have knowledge on similar tools.
Yeah.
So all these can work in your favor as well.
Yeah, there's such thing as a tech stack. So it's like the combination of tools used in an organization. So what organization A, so let's say whatever they use at Amazon is not necessarily going to be the same thing that's used at Coca-Cola.
Actually, it's never
the same because an IT department runs 30, 40, 50, even 100 applications. And even inside that, there's tools used to manage servers, tools used to monitor servers, databases, operating system, all these things. So the combination, it's like a phone number.
Yeah.
It's never going to be the same.
And one way we at Yellowtail Tech, we help with that is after training, you get to pass your certification, and after that, you get invited into an apprenticeship.
Yep.
This is where you're going to be solving real tickets on real servers for real companies, so you can get that hands-on, and you can actually put that company on your resume. This is also able to help you, but it shows up as an apprenticeship.
Yep.
But it still helps you because the person understands that you actually were exposed to those tools.
Yep.
And the biggest question I always get from the apprentice is that, well, when I go to an interview, it's not necessarily going to be the same tech stack. But it's never going to be the same tech stack because every company, and I mean every single company, is going to use a different tech stack. The idea is for you to actually have enough knowledge about these different technologies to be able to actually interchange.
Yeah.
They want to know that you know enough to be able to potentially learn a new tool, you know?
And understand the principles and be able to explain them. So that brings us to something else. One of the skills or the aptitudes that I see in our most thriving students, so basically the student that finds the job first in our cohorts is usually the MVP. So we call MVP like the most valuable player in a cohort. So that's the student that goes like above and beyond in helping others. And it's not just the altruistic thing, like, oh, I help others. It's that person is pushing themselves into an uncomfortable position to explain his fellow students these concepts. So it's something that he's learning or she's learning, but she's making an effort to put it into their own words.
And that's what you do in an interview.
Exactly.
So basically, he or she is already getting ready for that interview.
Exactly.
So the more convincing you are in an interview, the more it helps you.
Yeah.
But also, lastly, the most important part is persistence. This is a numbers game. You're going to go into interviews. You're going to make your case. You're probably not going to get the job in the first round or the first company. Probably not the third. But know that your job is out there. You keep on improving with every failure.
Yep.
Every no you get in interviews, you keep on improving, and eventually you're gonna break that catch-22. Stick with it, and you're gonna be able to get through and actually get into IT.